Code of conduct.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I put in extra work that just can't be found. I took the sword out the stone, wasn't a thing. Look me in my eyes cause I'm a king. Look me in my eyes cause I'm a king. God made me punch in accurate numbers. My castle won't crumble. What I tackle will fumble. I've been a leader when they ain't see it, but now my feet is up. According to me, royalty didn't end with King Tut. Crown on my head, clouds is at my legs. Big says sky is the limit. I look down on the ledge. I push the bar like I'm opening a cell. Hands in my cookie jar, you won't come out with a single nail. I need all of mine. The weight of my shoulders won't fit on a scale. What's a king to a giant? Well, Goliath fell. Even if we playin' chess, dog, this king can't be checked. I make all my moves on the board, I invented my steps. I'm a king, the blood of a ruler. I feel like Mansa Musa. Make your squad disappear like landing by the Bermuda. Triangle, look at it from my angle. I'm a king, the closest thing to being one of God's angels. Yeah, I'm a king. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I put in extra work that just can't be found. I took the sword out the stone, wasn't a thing. Look me in my eyes cause I'm a king. Look me in my eyes cause I'm a king.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is the Code of Conduct with the King podcast. I am your host, JSpenceTheKing, and I am back. This is my second annual Divisional Code, and I got the same guest back this week, so I'm excited about it. I got my man Thomas Christoper coming back. He's representing that Gang Green Nation. Got my man Pat Lane back. He's representing that Pat's Pulpit. You know, we don't like those guys. We don't like the Jets either, but we really don't like those guys over at Pat's Pulpit. And then the legend, the myth himself, Mr. Matter of fact, Kevin, I'm going to bring Kevin in a second. I'm going to let Kevin introduce himself for the Phinsider. We got an all-star cast from SB Nation, and I'm amped. Every year I'm amped to do this, and I'm saying it like that because this is the second year. So I'm in good company this year. So let me get right into it. I got a couple of announcements. We all know next week I'm going to be in Buffalo for the weekend prior to the Bills home opener. So that Tennessee weekend, guys, if you're going to be in Buffalo or if you are in Buffalo, make sure you come by, kick it with us. We're going to be having our karaoke party. This is going to be so much fun. We got everybody singing. Joe's going to be there. John Fina, he's talking about it. We don't know, but he's going to be there too. He's going to sing some songs. You're going to have me singing. I might rap. I'm going to rap Eminem. That's what I'm going to do. I'm rapping some Eminem. It's going to be fun. The real Slim Shady. I might dye my hair gold or something. We'll see what happens. But every single dime that we make on this event is being donated to the Good Samaritan Church in honor of my Aunt Pearl. She was a victim in the shooting at Tops on Jefferson back in May. So anybody, if you would like to be a blessing to that church, and if you can't make it to the event, you can also donate by clicking the link. We have a raffle going. So again, get to me on Twitter, find the raffle. We're going to have good things going on. Lastly, last announcement, I promise. The next night, we're re-releasing the Buffalo Rumblings beer. And y'all know how much fun that was last year. We're going to do it again. We're going to have a mega pod hosted by Joe Miller, and we're going to be at Resurgence. It is going to be a great time. Fans of Buffalo and Buffalo and Weck is going to be there with us. Make sure y'all come out and hang with us. We got one more message from Buffalo Freddy, and I am ready for the Divisional Code. Okay, here's the deal. I know as Bills fans, we wait all year for the fall and the winter so we can go to the Bills games. I get it. Trust me, I do. But let me tell you why this time of the year is elite. It's party time. And we're going to party for so many reasons, whether it's a graduation party, a birthday party, family reunion, or just because it's Saturday and the weather's perfect. Here's the thing. My guy, Buffalo Freddy, has everything you need to make your party the best party of the year. We have everything from chairs and tables to premium tents, water slides, wet and dry bounce houses, and so much more. And that's not all. The best barbecue catering in Western New York has you covered, whether it's a small party or a corporate gathering. Buffalo Freddy Barbecue Catering makes everything easy for you. Rentals and bookings available now at www.buffalofreddy.com, or you can call 716-4FREDDY. That's 716-437-3339. Remember, for all your party rental needs, just call 4Freddy. Ladies and gentlemen, the Divisional Code, it is going down. What is going on, everybody? My man Pat Lane in the building. What's up, man?
How we doing? Excited for this, as always. Always excited to talk to the AFC East. It's a little bit of a different feeling the last few years from Patriots fans, but still excited for it.
Yeah, this ain't Tom Brady country no more, man. It feel different for you, huh? What's going on, Thomas? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Well, I mean, while things are getting a little different with Pats fans, it's kind of the same old story with the Jets. So I'm hoping that this year is a little bit different, you know?
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. There's some things about the Jets that I like, so I want to talk about it. I want to talk about your perspective of just overall the roster and what you see going forward this year, and we'll get it. And then we got my man Kevin. What is going on? The legend from the Phinsider. What's up?
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here. I love doing this. I'm glad we could all be back again for another year and see where we were from last year versus this year.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. Let's let's start the way Pat said it was so wonderful to my soul. So let's start with Pat and the Patriots, and let's talk about how things are looking a little different for those New England Patriots fans up there in Foxborough. So first, Pat, let's just talk about it, man. What are you know what? Everything coming out, it seems like everything coming out of the New England area with the media seems to be confusion right now. So with the week, now we're week 1, right? So
Yep.
This Sunday, you guys are starting the season off. What can we expect to see out of this offense? Because I'm hearing that like they don't even know.
There's no confusion. It's all negative. It's all negative all the time. That's the way it is in Massachusetts. Just the way it is. It's the way Boston sports are covered. All 4 sports. It's the way. Listen, Tom Brady, they had the greatest dynasty, arguably in the history of, certainly in the history of the NFL, arguably in the history of sports, and they bitched about it all the time anyways. And it's just like, you just don't, it's just the way it is. Here's the thing, right? There's a million reasons why the offense is going to look a little bit different and why and we can get into that. But the fact is this, right? Have you known Bill Belichick to say, hey, this is our offense, this is what we're running every week? No, you have no idea what they're going to run from time to time. We've been talking about fantasy before this started. Fantasy football players hate Bill Belichick because the game plan looks different from game to game, and it looks like a different team from game to game. So to think that he's just going to scrap the offense they were running before and run a completely different offense and do exactly the same thing all the time is lunacy. And so, of course, there's going to be negativity from the media. That's of course going to happen. It just is what it is because it's Boston, because it's Boston media, and the nation hates us because of those right there. That right there pisses everyone off. They're sick of watching the Patriots be good. And then they thought they got rid of the Patriots and they won 10 games last year and were in the playoffs. So it's like, would you just go away? So like maybe now they suck. And so we can all be quiet and we can all, it'll go away. That's not happening. It's not happening. They're going to be in the same spot they were last year. They're going to be 9-8, 10-7, and they're going to be around. Now they're probably going to, if they make the playoffs, they're probably going to lose in the first round of the playoffs because they're not as good as the top 4 or 5 in the AFC. But they're still going to be hanging around just like they always have been.
Let me ask you guys this, because so Kevin and I were talking actually prior to the show starting, and so Miami obviously feels like they've taken a step forward and they are looking at a wild card spot, or they want to compete for the division. The Patriots always feel like they're going to compete for the division or wild card spot as well. So those are 2 teams right now that weren't in. Well, the Patriots were in the playoffs, but these are 2 teams that we're talking about the playoffs. The Bills obviously think that we're division. We feel like we're in control of the division. I have a hot take that I didn't think was a hot take, but I've been getting beat up for it. I don't think that the Bengals are going to make the playoffs. And the reason for that is, I just gave 2 teams that could potentially be the wild card teams. I think Baltimore is not as beat up as they were last year, and I don't think they're going to be as beat up. They had 24 or 25 guys on injured reserve. Just don't see that happening. I think the AFC West has gotten better everywhere across the board. Like the entire division has gotten better, with the exception of the Chiefs. They lost one of their biggest players and, whatever. But then you talk about in their own division, Deshaun Watson suspended. So, yeah, the Browns took a step back. But look at Pittsburgh. I don't think that I like Mitch Trubisky. I don't think that he's he's not Patrick Mahomes. Is he better than Ben Roethlisberger the last couple years? I think so. I think the last couple years, the level of play we got at Ben Roethlisberger, I don't think was like what we know for Ben that's going in the Hall of Fame. That wasn't the Ben that we saw. So for that, I'm saying I don't think we're going to see the Bengals. What are your thoughts? Let's since we were talking to Pat real quick, let's finish your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on that when we're talking about playoffs? And I don't want to jump to ahead, and I want to stay in the division, but that bugs me every week now that I talk to somebody about these Bengals, thinking that now they're just a shoo-in for the AFC.
It is really interesting with the Bengals because the one thing that I'll say is that, I just think that the locker room and chemistry is so important, right? And look what happened in the offseason. Now, they didn't really lose anyone, right? But Jesse Bates, who is the leader of their team, who everyone loves, is on the franchise tag and wanted to get paid. And everyone, and I mean everyone in that organization, said that they should pay him. And what did they do? They didn't pay him. And so he finally showed up. But that's an example of, you finally get to that spot, and now, you have these guys and they're like, well, screw you. Like, and so that's an issue to me where it looks like, okay, there's something that maybe goes wrong. And of course, we all know getting to the Super Bowl is really hard. If you lose the Super Bowl, it's really hard to get back there. Right. And so, there was a streak for a while where it was like, a bunch of teams that had lost Super Bowl didn't make the playoffs the next year. Right. And so, because that's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit, but I can certainly see it. It's definitely a little bit of a hot take for me. I still have them winning that division, though I feel like, the Ravens could take a step forward and win the division perhaps. But, is it outside the realm of possibility? I don't think so. But it would definitely surprise me, but I guess I wouldn't be like incredibly shocked to see them as the playoffs.
Mr. Nago, what do you think about that? Do you think I'm crazy? Because, like I said, I have a realistic reason for thinking that.
I was first going to point out that, Pat, you're the only one that really knows that it's hard to get to back-to-back Super Bowls and get back after losing one. The three of us are just hoping to get that one day. But no, I don't think you're wrong. I think that the Bengals have definitely set themselves up as that team that everybody loves to jump on. It's where the Bills were last year. And not to say that the Bills aren't that hot team this year that everybody likes to pick too, but where the Bills were last year, that's where the Bengals are now, that up and coming team that they're primed to be there every single year. And they probably are going to take a step back. It's kind of like before the show, we talked about it. And then we talked about it last year too, where my expectation was that Josh Allen was going to take a step back, not fall completely off, but take a step back just because that third year was such an outlier. I don't think that the Bengals as a team, they're still a young team. What we saw last year, I don't think is what they are. I think they will come back a little bit. And then I think you're right. I think that the Ravens are a much better team than they were last year because of all those injuries. I think that you have a Pittsburgh team that Tomlin's never going to let the Pittsburgh Steelers be a team that is not competing. And then Brian Flores being there, that defense is going to have a different look. They're going to have a different mentality. I have the Brian Flores experience down here. He's going to get that defense ready. And we'll talk this, I'm sure, in a minute when we get to looking at the Dolphins in this offseason. But everything changed. There were communications issues. There were personality conflicts all up and down the Dolphins, especially with Brian Flores there. But at the end of the day, Brian Flores is a coach that can coach. So now he's not that head guy. He's going to get that Pittsburgh defense doing some things. So, yeah, I think that you probably are right. And I do think that, sorry, Thomas, I think 3 playoff teams are probably in the AFC East right now. I'll leave Thomas just there.
You know what, Thomas? I'll just go ahead and throw it right to you, man. Go for it, bro. That's on you.
I mean, I can't say he's wrong. Let's be frank about that. But I do kind of agree with your point there about the Bengals. It all depends, for teams that haven't really been there, it's all about how they react the following year. And, leading up with that Bates drama, it really depends how the team reacts as a whole. As you said, the Ravens, they're not going to be as injury prone as they were last year. They might have some problems with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. That's what I'm kind of interested in, to see if Lamar is able to handle that workload for another season and stay healthy while doing it. But, the Steelers with Flores as their defensive coordinator, like on that team now, it's good. That team's going to take a step up, I think. And we saw how bad Big Ben was. His yards per attempt were abysmal. We're not going to see that with Trubisky and or Pickett, depending on how that situation goes as well. And the AFC West is just, I think that's probably the best division in the NFL right now. all four teams are extremely good and going to be competitive. I kind of see the Bengals maybe on like that borderline wild card spot, but I don't see them winning their division again this year. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So, so it sounds like Pat is the only one that kind of thinks I'm crazy, and that's okay because Pat tells me pretty much almost every week during the season that I'm crazy, so I can deal with that. I can deal with that. So, but back to the Patriots. So, you're right. It isn't just bad. It is bad completely how it's coming out and what people are saying. It's not just confusion. You're right. What are your expectations that we're actually gonna see though, aside from what is being reported in the way it's like? So come week one when the game starts, like what is Mac Jones gonna look like as a quarterback this year? Like is he gonna be able to take a step forward?
I do. I think he looked very good in camp when he was comfortable, and I think the iteration of this new iteration of the offense is different. It's just learning something new, right? So if you're learning the Kyle Shanahan offense, which is the offense that they were primarily trying to run, it's a different type of offense than what they ran last year, right? So it's going to look different and everything's going to feel different. And at the beginning of camp, he said flat out, like, we'd call a play. Even if we knew the defense was going to stop it, we'd come out to the line and look at it and say, we know this play is not going to work, but they'd run it anyways because they needed to get it on film so that you can coach up the guys. Hey, listen, when this happens, you got to make this block, or you got to take that guy, or this guy's got to go here. And so they're just coaching guys up because they hadn't run it before. And so none of it was about what happened. It was about the execution of the players on the field, right? And so things looked a little bit disjointed because that's kind of where they were. But I do expect them to come out with, they're not going to be running a wide zone play every play. They're just not going to be doing that. I think that you're going to see some of that, traditional power, some of those you'll see some zone runs, but I think, you'll see some of that gap power runs that you're used to with the Patriots. And then you'll see some zone as well to try to get it involved, but you'll see a decent amount of play action. I expect them to do what I expect them to play well. And I think Kendrick Bourne's a guy that had a really, really tough summer, had a bad training camp, was kicked out of practice of fighting one practice, then was kicked out of a drill by a ref because he didn't have the right equipment on, and then was held out of the game that week. So, but I still think the relationship that him and Mac have, I think he's going to be fine. And so, I think too, and Devontae Parker, obviously Kevin knows about Devontae Parker. I think Devontae Parker is a good player, and he's shown that, right? He's shown that ability, certainly in the red zone, if he can stay healthy. I think they're going to be just fine. I really do. I think their offense is going to look a little bit different, but it's going to be a lot of the same stuff that we saw out of them last year with Mac. And I think people are going to be surprised by it. And I think they're going to win week one. And I think people are going to come away and they're going to look better than people thought. And they're going to, I know you disagree, but I think people are going to come away and be like, wait a second. I thought the Patriots were dead. Like what, they looked like, okay, right? How did that happen? Right. And so there's going to be a lot of, hand wringing and shock on Monday. Like, wait a second, they look like they actually can play. And the Dolphins, to their credit, I think the Dolphins are a good team. And so, I think that it's not like the Patriots are going to blow them out. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think the Patriots will pull it out kind of in the end, almost similar to what happened last year in New England first week of the season when that was a back and forth game. Patriots get the ball at the end of the game and Damian Harris fumbles and the Dolphins hold on and win. I think you could see a similar type of game there. And I think people are going to walk away from that game saying well, wait a second. I thought the Patriots were supposed to suck here. And they look okay. And so that to me is exactly where I expect them to be after 2 or 3 weeks. They got Pittsburgh week 2. They're going to win that one. So, I expect them to start out 2-0, to be honest with you. And that's going to be interesting. Baltimore coming at home is going to be tough. But I think that, after those first 2 weeks, people are going to be like, okay, I think the Patriots are not as bad as we thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's a fair outlook on it. What are your before we move on, we'll move on to the Jets after this really quickly. But so just overall going into this now, so what would you say our focus is? So what do you think is the strength and weakness of your team overall?
Yeah, so the strength is in my opinion, the defense. I mean, I know they lost J.C. Jackson, of course, but the safeties are outrageous. I mean, they have 5 safeties who can play. And from top to bottom, they don't have the best safety in the division or even in the, certainly in the division. But I think just from top to bottom, they have 5 guys that can play and play well, I think. And then they added speed and athleticism everywhere along the roster. And so I really do think that that's going to be something that's going to pop off the screen to people, where it's like they were slow the last 2 years, like really slow. And that's something that they really, really focused on. They brought in guys that were fast. They drafted all fast guys. And I think you're going to see them flying around out there, and they're going to look very different than they did last year.
Okay, well, we'll see, man. I'm looking forward to it. Thomas, let's jump into these Jets for a minute, man. I've paid close attention to the Jets, so I liked everything that I saw in the offseason. Honestly, I think that you guys did a very good job with the draft. I think you did a very good job with free agency. Overall, I think as a team, and tell me what is the feeling in New Jersey? Like, how do you guys feel about your offseason? I would be encouraged.
Yeah, I mean, all of the fans here, they're really big on what Joe Douglas has been bringing in, and Robert Saleh as well. Like, the culture is one of the biggest things that they've been trying to put into this franchise, because for years the culture just kind of has been non-existent. But everybody really likes what Joe Douglas has done. I have as well. He kind of has grown since his first draft. If you guys recall his first draft, a lot of misses on there. Quinnen Williams is probably the only guy that's still on the team. I mean, Mims is on his way out, and then Breece Hall he was the starter last year, and now he's kind of falling down the depth chart quicker than he can, catch his feet. So this year is a lot different, but the team always is going to ride on the back of the quarterback. And with Zach Wilson, his injury history with his knee is kind of becoming a little bit concerning, and he's missing a lot of precious time that he's going to need to have. And it doesn't really help when, you have like Joe Flacco, great quarterback. He's going to step in. He's going to do what Joe Flacco does, but he's not the future of the team. So if Zach Wilson isn't able to kind of get it together, take that next step forward, all of the things that are coming around are going to be for naught. And we might find the Jets having to find themselves another quarterback at this time next season, which I think would be unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it would be unfortunate, because I do think that, first of all, your quarterback has the potential to be a really good quarterback. I don't think it's I don't think it was a mistake that he was drafted where he was. When you see him, you see things that make you say, man, if only we could protect this guy, or if we could get like really good receivers for this guy. You just have a hope, and it just doesn't seem to translate. I felt really bad in the preseason, man, with that injury. I was happy it wasn't a long-term thing,
Yeah.
But no, honestly, I felt really good for Jets fans. I have a lot of friends who are Jets fans, and I felt good for you guys, like, going into the season. I feel bad because I feel like Pat, myself, and Kevin all still feel like you're not making the playoffs. So it's like, it's rough. But hey, man, I appreciate your participation here.
Yeah, I might as well just get a participation trophy at this point. I can have a little little tiny one hang up somewhere.
I'm sorry, I just got to take these shots, people. For those listening to podcast form, these guys are people who I admire, and I follow their work, and that's why I call Kevin a legend. I call Pat, like, that's why, but I got to throw these shots out there at times when I can get them. Hey, so for you as a Jets fan, Buffalo, how do you view, because I know there's a ton of trash talk with everybody with the Jets fans, but Buffalo, I feel like it's been picking up, because for some reason the Jets, I don't know, are you guys like proud now that like you're the team with the longest playoff drought since the Bills? Like, I don't know what's happening, but like it seems like they're proud to not make the playoffs.
That's just a mean question, man.
Hey, I'm just being honest here. Man. They're yelling at us, and I want to know, like, what's the outlook when it comes to Buffalo out there with the Jets fans?
Man, honestly, I'm not too sure. They were getting on my neck when I said the Jets made a mistake drafting Sam Darnold. So there's some crazy stuff that's going down. I think I don't know. I think that a lot of fans kind of see themselves going towards the same trajectory as the Bills did with Josh Allen. I mean, fans are now using like Josh Allen's first 2 years as an excuse for Zach Wilson, which maybe they're kind of seeing that similarity and just want to be, hey, we're going to be better than the Bills, because, it might be something with that. But also, you guys are the only, fans are going to hate me for saying you guys are the only real New York team. So that kind of plays a part in it as well. And I feel like that Bills-Jets rivalry is kind of just growing for whatever reason. And I'm not too sure why, but it's getting a lot stronger than it has been in the past few years.
I appreciate your honesty. I'll stop being mean here. I was just playing. I was just playing, but no. But honestly, like I said, there's a lot of good about the team. You mentioned Sam Darnold, man. What is your take on this? And that this is going outside the division and the conference for a moment. But what's your take on this situation down here in North Carolina now, where they traded for? First of all, isn't it hilarious that I know you're a Jets fan, but you weren't on the side of Sam Darnold. You didn't want Sam Darnold necessarily. You wanted someone else. Isn't it funny that the two guys that kind of were doubted the most that year are like the two most successful quarterbacks out that draft class? Now you have the number 1 overall pick, and then the guy that was in New York with you. Now they're both in Carolina. What is your take on this? Not a quarterback battle, but this quarterback frenzy going down with the Carolina Panthers.
I don't think you could really write it up any better than how it's kind of gone. I feel bad for Darnold for, he got that injury, but he wasn't going to come out starting the season as the starting quarterback anyway. I think it's kind of weird. The thing with Baker and Cleveland has been, it's kind of hard to read how that has been, that organization has a lot of dysfunction to it. So I'm interested to see, because the Jets were also a candidate to have Matt Rule as their head coach, and he wanted Sam Darnold, of course, and we saw how that went. So I'm very intrigued to see how that situation plays out. I like Baker, but I think he's going to do a lot better than he did in Cleveland, just because of the weapons around him. McCaffrey's really good, and they got DJ Moore, who I think is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. So it's going to be very interesting to see, but you can't really help but laugh to see those two guys there fighting for that starting job, and then Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are just stars. So once again, the Jets missed out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. But you know what? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You got a good coach. I think the direction is honestly, I think it's going in the right direction. So, let's keep it up. Let's head down to our friends in South Beach. Let's take our talents to South Beach. Kevin, listen, everybody, their mother, their aunties, and their cousins are talking about the Miami Dolphins adding Tyreek Hill. And if Tua can really, since he's been seen in practice slinging it 50 yards down the field, this is the year of Tua, and this is the year of the Dolphin. What is happening?
I think it's kind of like what Thomas was talking about. It's that third year growth of a quarterback that you're expecting. And obviously we all have the example of Josh Allen sitting right there in front of us. So you expect to see that growth. I think that Tua will grow. I think he will take that next step forward. He looks confident. He looks comfortable. I think there's a lot to say about the Brian Flores situation, where Flores seemed to always be trying to replace Tua. So I think that you now have a coach that seems to have confidence in him. Yeah, there's still the tampering with Tom Brady, and there's still all that discussion, but it seems like the team is finally 100% behind Tua. Let's go. You've added so much speed. I don't understand how there's this much speed on one offense, from Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, even Mike Gesicki's fast for a big old tight end / I think we're going to see him. As much talk as there has been about how he can't block and how they're leaving him in these preseason games to get his blocking better, I think you're going to see him slide outside more, play more of a big slot wide receiver type of guy. So you have a ton of speed. So I think everybody loves the home run. Everybody loves the deep ball. I think it's still going to be a move people around, create mismatches. Deebo Samuel doing things in San Francisco, now down in Miami, whether it's Tyreek Hill, whether it's Jalen Waddle, whoever's playing that type of role, just get the ball in their hands and let them do their thing. And then the defense, all the coaches except a couple, including Brian Flores, are back on the defense. Almost all the starters are there. They've plugged in some veterans to try to create some more pass rush. The fear is the fear is the depth at cornerback, especially. Xavier Howard is Xavier Howard. He's going to be you stay away from him unless you want to throw a pick type cornerback. Byron Jones is starting the year on the PUP list, so he's out for at least the first 4 games. Nick Needham, an undrafted free agent a couple years ago, has developed really nicely into a really good slot cornerback. I don't know if they're going to slide him outside or if they're going to try to put somebody else out there and leave him in the slot, but he's a very solid cornerback. After that, though, Noah Igbenogany, he's a first-round pick going into his third year. He has the bust label already. I think the benefit there is he's still only 22 years old. He's still a kid. There are rookies that are older than he is. So there's options there. But yeah, that cornerback depth is definitely something that worries me.
Don't use the age argument against Bills Mafia for any reason, because I'm gonna tell you, everybody wants, they all want Tremaine Edmonds gone. And when I'm like, you don't get rid of a guy that made the Pro Bowl twice when he's only 23 and he's on his, I give him every reason saying like Tremaine Edmonds is on a trajectory of having a great career, but they're like, well, he's 23 and he still misses tackles. Okay, you know what? That's fine, Bills Mafia. But no, I agree with you about your take on Miami, man. And one of the things that that you and I were talking about prior to going live here, we were talking about how I actually think, I know Bills Mafia, don't beat me up in the comments here, but we always talk about how Tua is like, oh, the guy can't throw. Okay, we saw it on practice. He threw 50 yards, whoop-de-doo, and everybody wants to talk about it. The thing is, realistically, actual game use, I don't think that we're going to see too many 50-yard throws, really, right, from many teams. We got Josh Allen, and Josh Allen can throw that thing probably to the moon if he really, really tried it. I don't think we see him throw it 50 yards at one time in a game, maybe 3-4 times the whole year. I don't see Hail Marys from Josh from the 20. I just don't see it. So with that being said, what is your realistic expectation for the improvement that Tyreek Hill and Waddle together will allow Tua to make, even without having to necessarily have the deep ball be his main weapon? Sorry if that was a long-winded answer or question, but that was the best way to ask it.
We've seen, last year we saw it. Tua is that get the ball out of your hand quick, make that accurate throw on the slant, and let a guy start running. And when you have Tyreek Hill, who I swear the guy doesn't have acceleration, it's just go and he's at full speed. And I have no idea how he does it. But get the ball in his hands, get the ball in Waddle's hands. And then the guy that I think everybody forgets about is Cedric Wilson. I think that was a great addition for the Dolphins because when Waddle and Hill are flying down the sidelines, Wilson's going to come through the middle and there's nobody there to guard him because the top's been taken off. So I think Cedric Wilson is going to have a really big year as that safety net, kind of what Mike Gesicki could also be, but I think Cedric Wilson becomes that safety net type guy that can do some good things across the middle for the Dolphins.
So, you know what, in Gesicki, there's been, I know you kind of brought him up earlier, like with the blocking and stuff like that. There's been talk that, or at least a concern by some, that he's not going to be as involved in the offense because of his lack of blocking or whatever. How do you see that playing out for all of our fantasy guys? I know this is, hopefully you guys have all drafted your team by now, but if not, what can we look forward to with Mike Gesicki?
I personally, I think that Mike McDaniel is the type of coach that he's not somebody who's going to force a player into a bad position. He's the type of guy that this is my weaponry. This is how I can use them. So I think that a lot of the preseason talk of he doesn't fit the system, he doesn't fit the team, I think that kind of goes out the window now that we're getting the regular season and we'll actually start to see what the offense really is. Could they try to look and keep him inside, try to get him into that George Kittle type of mold? They could, but that's not who he is. I think that he ends up being that extra wide receiver, and then you see someone like Durham Smythe or Hunter Long as Long develops. I think those become your true tight ends. So I think Gesicki's going to have a fine year. I don't know if it's enough that the Dolphins will make sure to re-sign him for next year since he's playing on the franchise tag this year, but I think it's enough that he's gonna put up decent numbers.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, like, I hope he's not as involved as a Bills fan. Like, we always seem to get beat up by him. Like, we could shut down, like, we've had, since Josh has been drafted, obviously we've had a good relationship with the Dolphins, not Gesicki. He destroyed, man, every game. It's like he's getting 2 touchdowns, and I don't understand it. I do not understand it. So I would like for him to not play. Charles
Clay won games for us too, whether he was wearing Miami or Buffalo colors.
Don't remind me, man. That's still such an embarrassment. Like Josh, he literally could have been undefeated against the Dolphins for his career had Charles Clay caught this pass. And I don't know. I'm sure Kevin remembers it. But Pat and Thomas, I don't know if you remember this game, but we were in Miami, and Josh was like, he basically did aerobics around like the entire defensive line. He ran around everybody, was able to get the ball out. Charles Clay was open in the end zone. It was slightly underthrown, but it was like, you catch this ball. You know what I mean? Like it was, you catch this damn ball. He drops the ball, man, and we lose this game. And it's just like, first of all, and everybody thought it was like the Charles Clay like revenge game. You know, every time he plays against the Dolphins, he always tries to stick it to him. He had a really good game, and that last play, can you tell this bugs me still? Like, can you tell?
I really should have worn my Clay jersey. That's what I should have done today.
Oh my goodness.
Like, so honest to God, so like people older than me, Bills fans, like they hate the Dolphins more than they hate the Patriots. I don't get it, but I wasn't around when it was like the Bills and the Dolphins for real going head to head. So hopefully that comes back. But like when I tell you my Miami moment is that, like, I hate that moment, and I hate because Dolphins fans don't let it go. And it's like, you could be like, well, no, we beat you.
Listen,
dude,
the Dolphins,
go ahead, my bad.
Like, no, I'm sorry. Spence, I cut you off. But just to your point, the Dolphins, like the highlight that the Dolphins have been using for years now is the crazy like Hail Mary play at the end of the game, right? Against the Patriots in 2018.
The Gronk one?
The Patriots won the Super Bowl that year in 2018. And the Dolphins are like, oh, we beat you down in Miami. And it's like, bro, nobody cares.
We beat you with a lateral, with all this weird stuff. It's like, come on, man.
That was such a great play. I was in a hotel room and that play happened, and I'm watching it on my iPad, legally streaming it, but streaming it. And I am sure somebody in that hotel thought there was somebody being murdered. I was just screaming.
I went in. My daughter was at Girl Scouts, and I went in to pick up my daughter at Girl Scouts. My dad was in the car, and we're listening to the game. And I went in to pick up my daughter. I go back out, and I'm like, "Oh, they won." And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean no? Like they just scored to win the game. It was over." That's insane. J.C. Jackson, by the way, 100%. At fault, responsibility for that. He got turned around like 4 times. All he had to do was stay on, just don't want the guy outside. And then he made the mistake to let the guy get the ball. And then instead of running back, he ran in, and then there was no one on the outside. It was just like, oh my God, dude. But you know what's so funny is that I listened to part of my take, and Hank said it right after the game. He's like, that's gonna be the opening of their Super Bowl highlight reel. And I was like, oh my God. And they won the Super Bowl. So it was it's one of those, not that you guys can relate, but it's one of those things. Maybe one day you guys will have one of those, and at least Kevin, for you, like when you're alive, we'll have
50 years ago was the undefeated season.
That's
we
true.
get to celebrate that.
Oh, that's right. This year, that's right.
49 years since they won the Super Bowl.
We made it 4 times in a row. That's still
true.
Doesn't happen.
It's pretty impressive.
Won
4 times in a row is impressive. Man, that first one.
We should have won.
Yeah,
we should have won that first one.
Yep.
And Thomas, we'll give you something to brag. What do you want to brag about, man? Let's brag. Let's let the Jets brag too.
I mean, at least we have one, right?
There you go.
As far as I can go.
Hey, listen, that Super Bowl arguably is the most important Super Bowl ever, because that's when the AFL really showed that they could actually play against the NFL, and that's what led to the merger.
Yeah. Well, let's switch the conversation. It's the same, but let's switch it a little bit now. Let's talk about each other's teams for a second here. I want to take a moment now. We just got done talking about Miami with Kevin, so let's kind of ask Pat and Thomas from their perspective, from your team's perspective, the strengths and weaknesses when it comes to. So when the Patriots get ready to play Miami, what are your go-tos? How do you think the Patriots are going to win or lose that game? And same thing for you, Thomas. And then we'll do it for all the other 3 teams in the division, and then we'll get some predictions for how this thing is going to turn out. I think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, but we'll get there. And once we do, we can have that discussion. But let's start off, Pat. Let's talk a little bit about Miami, man. How are Patriots going to prepare to beat the Dolphins?
They're going to put the fastest guys as humanly possible on the field at all times, because they're just super fast. And so you saw, like, at the end of training camp, Jonathan Jones, who is their fastest slot corner, has been playing a lot of outside corner. And I don't think that's a mistake. I think he's doing that because they have been using him against Tyreek Hill when he was in Kansas City. Now they're going to use him against Tyreek Hill here. They drafted Marcus Jones, who is outrageously fast from Houston, had 9 return touchdowns in his career. He's got crazy athleticism, so I think they're going to put him kind of on Jalen Waddle. with some help over the top. And then, and then you have Jalen Mills as well, who I think is an underrated corner. But the biggest thing you have to worry about with the Dolphins is just how much speed they have offensively. And we saw it last year with the Patriots, with the Bills, right? I mean, you got 2 games, the 2 games that weren't played in a hurricane, the Bills didn't punt, right? So, like, the Patriots were slow defensively, right? So what did they do? Well, they lose J.C. Jackson, which sucks. But you just take all your linebackers and, like, get the hell out of here. They got rid of all their linebackers. They drafted 2 fast, instinctive corners, and they brought in some safeties as well, with Jabril Peppers. Josh Bledsoe comes off IR. So they added a ton of speed to this defense, and I think that that's something that's going to be important because, honestly, they'll just run you right off the field if you don't have speed out there. So the Patriots, I think that's their biggest game plan, I think. And then offensively, it's just going to be trying to get something going, right? They did a pretty nice job running against them last year in both games. So you kind of hope you can see some running attack from them. I think the Patriots have arguably the best backfield in football. Maybe you can argue Cleveland, but they have a pretty damn good backfield. So you're hoping for some solid running there. And then, we'll see what Mac looks like. So, but I think it's going to be tough. But it's, again, any team that plays Miami, the number one thing is how much speed they have offensively. And like you said, okay, maybe Tua can't throw the ball super far down the field. It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't make a difference. If you throw a quick bubble screen to Tyreek Hill, you better be out there. You better have 4 guys out there to try to get him, because if you don't, he's just going to run right by you. And so, and because he has that, and Kevin, I love how you said it, he doesn't have acceleration. He just goes super fast, right? So he's like 0 to 60 in 0 seconds, right? So that's one of those things where you have to have guys that can at least come close to running with them. And so I hope at least that's what the Patriots have done, but we'll see.
Well, to your point about Tyreek Hill, I agree. Because, everybody is saying Tua can't throw it 50 yards. He can't throw it 80 yards. Guess what? Tyreek Hill scored a touchdown on the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs that the Bills lost to take them to take the Chiefs to overtime. Tyreek Hill turned like a 10-yard slant into like a 65-yard touchdown.
Right.
You don't need to throw a bomb when you have Tyreek Hill. And guess what? Waddle is just as fast as Tyreek. Maybe not just as fast, but he's like, I would love to see those guys in a race. I would absolutely love to see those guys in a race. So,
yeah.
No, I agree. I'm not nervous, but I'm like, it's one of those things where when we're talking about speed, I recognize that is how the Chiefs beat us. And I recognize that for 2 years in a row, that's how the Chiefs have beat us. So last year, prior to getting to Tyreek Hill, they had Waddle down there, but it was like, but Miami, they got Waddle, but if we kind of can shut him down, it's like, okay, now they've added. And now the running game that they're going to bring, you add Tyreek Hill to go with Waddle, and then the coaching staff there, if they can resemble at all the coaching staff that they, are part of, the tree that they're a part of, if they can resemble Shanahan's offense at all, the Miami Dolphins are going to be a scary ass team this season. Like, and that Bills fans don't want to hear that. I'm sorry, I can't get on here and just lie just because I'm a Bills guy. It's gonna be tough if at all. If that offense can resemble anything like a Shanahan offense, it's going to be tough for anybody playing them. Anybody. What do you think, Thomas, about the Dolphins?
I think they're one of the most improved teams coming into this season by far. That speed factor is going to be huge. And quite frankly, I'm not really sure how the Jets stop it. I mean, they got Sauce Gardner, and he's going to be hopefully as good as he's, projected to be. And DJ Reed, he could, help Sauce out a little bit. But defensively, I'm just not quite sure what the team can do to kind of stop them, other than trying to force them to be one-dimensional by stopping the run, which the Jets have been terrible at for the past year or so. So we just don't have the speed to catch them. And it really depends on Robert Saleh and getting his scheme to fit what the team has. Last year, he was really vanilla in his defensive coverage schemes, and that's going to be a problem if he tries to stick with that same vanilla coverage going forward. He's also the only coach outside of Jim Schwartz to have that, as his background, defense of his background, and have a team play so horribly ranking wise. So if he wants to succeed, he has to find a way to stop teams, like the Dolphins, and getting that speed done. And I think it's going to have to do a lot with disguising his coverage and getting the right blitz packages in. Otherwise, I mean, the Dolphins are just going to run all over the Jets, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and I was very shocked that the team's defense wasn't good, because you're right. He having that defensive background as a head coach, man, you don't want to be in the same category as a Rex Ryan. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to be a guy that's considered a defensive mind or a defensive genius. Then you go somewhere and ruin a defense that has all the pieces. You know,
Yep.
Rex. Doggone Rex. All right.
Rex. Rex
Yeah,
was great.
I love watching Rex, and I loved him in New York. I didn't love him when he came to Buffalo because he absolutely
Hey, I
ruined a
did.
top 4 defense. Like we had Mario Williams, Marcel. You know what? No, forget it. We don't have to. We don't. Let's talk about the Jets, Kevin. Let's swing it your way. So you know what? Let's start with the Patriots, because why not? We're there already. So let's talk a little bit about it. How do you anticipate the Miami Dolphins game planning to come out and beat the New England Patriots?
I think it's kind of what Pat said. It's we have to be able to stop the run. The Dolphins have to be able to stop the run. That is the part of their defense that has struggled. Kind of like Thomas said, it struggled for years in the Jets. It struggled for years in Miami. Obviously, when it comes to the Bills, we add in Josh Allen there. Mac to some degree, but not necessarily Josh Allen style. But the Dolphins have, against all 3 of you guys' teams, against everybody in the league, always struggled to stop the run. So that's where I think that a Belichick team is going to come in and want to establish that run and take the ball out of Mac's hands. Don't make him go be that guy. I mean, we had the 3-pass game last year against the Bills. So you will see the Patriots will run the ball and love to run the ball. So I think that's where the Dolphins have to step up. They have to be able to prove that. Then after that, I think you're going to see Jalen Phillips take a step forward this year. He's going to be a guy that is going to create pressures. Emmanuel Ogbah led the team the last 2 years with 9 sacks each time. So there's lots of ways. Andrew Van Ginkel, they just added Trey Flowers. You have Melvin Ingram. So they have lots of ways to create pressure. So I think you'll see that, but I think it's going to be stuff the middle, make it hard for the Patriots to run the ball. And then let's see, are all these reports in the preseason of the offense is the worst anybody's ever seen, apparently, from every single tweet that's ever been made about the Patriots this summer. And let's see what that actually looks like now that the games count. Yeah,
I'm a little, I guess, in my mind, just regular knowledge about who the team is and what the players they have. I still don't know. Like, I know Pat says that, you know, and I agree with you, Pat, that you guys do have a good running back room, but it's one of those things where it's like, you know, so they went and they made the move for Devontae Parker. They tried to help him out with some receiver, you know, but I don't know if I believe that Parker can be a guy. I don't know if I believe that their tight end are they going to show up? They paid 2 of them a lot of money last year, and one kind of showed up. So it's like, you know, I don't know what the offense is going to do.
10 touchdowns wasn't good enough for you?
To me, you know what? I look at touchdowns, and this is the honest answer when you ask that. Dawson Knox a couple years ago led the league in touchdowns for the season from a tight end, and I wanted more from him because touchdowns, especially if they're like red zone opportunities, it's like, okay, yeah, you know, you could give that to your fullback and it's still a touchdown. You don't care, you're winning a game. What I want to see from my tight ends, I want to see those guys, those 3rd and 4th, those 3rd down plays where your quarterback needs them. I want to see those guys make those plays. Now, last year, Knox did it. I want to see your tight ends really show up for Mac. Well, I don't want to see him show up. But if I'm a Patriots fan, I want to see your tight ends really show up for Mac, because honestly, I feel like really the bad talk that Bills fans and other fans want to give them, in reality, we should really say, no, Mac is really all you guys had. You know, like you had a good running back room, but I'm saying, like, on offense, if Mac Jones wasn't there, oh my God, like, what do you think that offense would have looked like? You know, like, no, as a rookie. So I'm actually a fan of Mac Jones. Don't tell anybody, but I'm actually a fan of Mac Jones. I think he's pretty good, you know, but I'm just concerned. I want to see what their receivers do. Thomas, where we at, man?
Yeah, I'm kind of going to piggyback on his point there. The Jets need to stop the run in order to be able to make the Patriots one-dimensional. I think that's a little bit easier to do than trying to stop the Dolphins, which kind of seems weird to say after the past couple of years. But Carl Lawson's going to be back. People kind of forget that he's on the team, and he looks healthy as he's ever been. And John Franklin Myers is another guy to kind of keep your eyes out for. He's going to kind of move between the edge and the inside with Quinnen Williams. He's been having great numbers statistically, getting past his offensive lineman what he needs to beat, and he's been a good 1-2 punch with Quinnen Williams. And on top of that, the Jets got what I believe might be the steal of the draft in Jermaine Johnson. If he can develop into the player that he's supposed to be, then I think that front four is going to be really, really good and could kind of alleviate the pressure off of the linebackers who, we got Quan Alexander and we got Quincy Williams now, but they were terrible last year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and maybe they can alleviate the pressure off of them, which allows them to be better, in their position group. I think we have the personnel to kind of stop the Patriots on the offensive side of the ball. It all depends on if Mac Jones is willing to take that step too and be better than he was last year. And I think Mac Jones is a little bit underrated. From that draft class as a whole, I really like Mac Jones. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Jets can do to try to stop it. As I said previously, a lot of it depends on Salah's ability to disguise his coverage and blitz packages.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It's going to be, I think you and Kevin actually put that together pretty well. I don't have anything to add to that. That's shocking. I normally got too much to say. Listen, guys, if y'all don't follow these gentlemen and y'all don't follow their work, you need to do it. That's how good these guys are, honestly. Pat is second to none. Thomas is second to none. Kevin is second to none. And I'm going to tell you, SB Nation, we got the team, man. We got the team. So let's move on. Let's see. We talked about the Patriots. We talked about the Dolphins. I'm sorry, Thomas. It's time, man. Let's get to those Jets. Let's start with Kevin here, man. What do you think the Dolphins will have to do when it's time to line up against those New Jersey Jets?
I think it's kind of what Thomas already said. It's figure out what that defense is, because if it is the same vanilla defense, I think that speed ends up crushing them. If Saleh comes out there with some schemes that throw some wrenches into it, I think you could see some struggles there, especially as Tua tries to figure it out. Because, again, he's going into his third year, but Tua's still a young kid trying to figure it out. He has not played both of his two first seasons. He didn't play the whole season. So he's still trying to figure some things out. So I think it's figure out what the defense is doing, and then I think it is throw the speed at him. Just keep going. And when Waddle's tired, go to Hill. And when Hill's tired, go to Waddle. And when both of them are tired, go to Chase Edmonds and go to Raheem Mostert and keep throwing speed and see what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think when it comes to the Jets, for me, from the Bills' perspective, I just think that the Bills, we don't overlook them. I think when it comes to defensively, I think you always kind of know, like, okay, and I don't mean this in a way like I think the Jets are dirty. But I think we all know that the Jets are coming physical. So like your first idea when you're going into face the Jets is like, okay, we want to come out this game healthy. And like I said, I really mean that in a sense of like, no, these guys are physical. I don't think it's dirty. I just think that it's like, look, if you think you're going to come in here and be cute against us, you're going to be sore tomorrow. Let's figure this out. So when it comes to that, I think the Bills have shown a weakness against teams that tend to be physical and can punch you in the mouth. Last season, we saw Tennessee run all over us. We saw the Dolphins when they tried to be physical for moments. Now, we didn't allow them to, but when that happened, they had their moments. When the Jets, you think going into the games, man, we're supposed to blow the Jets out, just beat them by dude, they're physical and they can slow the game down. When that happens, the Patriots run over us, and that's that win game that Pat was talking about. So yeah, no, any team that we play against like that, my goal is like, hey, can we A, be physical too, and B, get out of there healthy? So no, I'm with you, man. I think the team is physical. We got to see what the defense is like. I'm always scared to see how those guys come after my guy Josh. Pat, how you looking at the Jets?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is that, what's Zach Wilson going to look like? Is he going to be healthy, right? Is it going to be Joe Flacco in their quarterback for the Jets? Because that's not great, right? And I think the other question, too, is that they drafted a young running back last year, Michael Carter. Then they drafted another young running back in Breece Hall. So, how are they going to use those guys? And what is the offense going to look like? Of course, you got Garrett Wilson out there. You got Elijah Moore out there. You got, who the hell was the kid from Tennessee? Jiminy
Corey
Christmas.
Davis.
Thank you, Corey Davis. You get Corey Davis out there. So you have good, they have good receivers. So it's just a matter of what can that offense do. And again, you would think the offense should be better with Wilson than it is with Joe Flacco. So it's really kind of a question of how long does it take him to come back and what does he look like when he comes back? That's going to be a big part of it for me. And then, I just think the Patriots should be able to do what they want against the Jets offensively against that Jets defense. But Saleh now in his second year, and again, defensive-minded coach, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get that turnover, to get the guys that you want in there. And if he's in that position now where he's like, hey, I'm comfortable with these guys, and they've been in the system for another year, it certainly could be a situation where, their defense looks a lot better than people expect because of the Saleh effect, right? Because, it took a year for us to get up and going, but now that we have those guys, now we'll be able to play better defense. And so I don't know if they're quite there yet, but you never know. Sometimes that defensive coach can take them to that next level, even without necessarily the personnel that maybe looks like an elite defense, but the coaching can make that unit better.
Sounds good, man. This is all good stuff. Like honestly, I love when I do these shows. Honest to God, I love when I do these shows because you guys are always so in depth. You have good knowledge and good information, and it just makes me really proud to be a part of SB Nation. Like, I mean that. Like, so
Same.
impressed.
I am just real quick. I am also really interested in seeing Sauce and seeing what he brings and what he's going to look like, because he's going to have the ability to shut somebody down if he plays up to his potential.
I wanted Sauce in Buffalo. Obviously, I knew, we wouldn't be able to move up and grab him that high, but he's that good of a player. And with us having Trey White out for probably, I want to say, the first 4 to 6 weeks of the year, it was concerning to me. Now, I love the fact that we drafted Kyer Elam. I think he's going to be, just as good for what we need him for. I think he's going to be a great player. But no, Sauce Gardner, man, that guy, I don't even want to call him a kid because he doesn't play like a kid. That man is he's something different. So no, you guys have you have the pieces slowly being put in place. The coach, maybe he just needs some years to develop. You got to develop there too. It's not just the quarterback that needs to develop over some time. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. So let's pivot to the Bills, and then we'll get our predictions out of here, and then we'll head out. And again, thank you guys for doing this, man. This has been a blast. So Pat, let's start with our favorite rivalry of the division for me. How do you anticipate when we, I think the first game we come to New England, right?
For Monday night. Thursday night, on a Thursday night.
Yeah, I believe so.
The week after Thanksgiving.
So when that happens, how do you anticipate the game plan being for the Pats to try and take the Bills down? Just
hold on, man. Hold on for dear life, man. It's just, and honestly, to me, it's going to be a question of how well can they play, right? Like, they played so poorly against them last year in those 2 games that you just kind of look at it and say, well, any sort of improvement by them would be something good, right? And that's kind of like something you can look at and draw a positive to. The hard part with Josh Allen is that when he scrambles to his right, he's unstoppable. He's unstoppable when he scrambles to his right because he can run, and he's unbelievable throwing it when he runs to his right. But you also can't leave him in the pocket because when you leave him in the pocket, he's unbelievable. And so then it's like, well, now you got to kind of flush him to the left. But then when you flush him to the left, he does something stupid and turns around and flicks it across. So it's like there's really nothing you can do other than try to keep them one-dimensional. And the biggest thing last year, Isaiah McKenzie killed us last year, just absolutely murdered us last year. And, Miles Bryant, who loved Miles Bryant to death, he doesn't have the speed to cover Isaiah McKenzie. He doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it. And so you draft a guy like Marcus Jones because you can put him in the slot and he can stick with a guy like Isaiah McKenzie. Now, maybe not every single time across the field, but you can stick with him from time to time across the field. You got to worry about Diggs, of course, but if you can cover those guys, then okay, Josh Allen's going to make his plays because he's Josh Allen. But like if you can shut down their receivers, now you look at it and say like, okay, we at least have a chance, right? And so that's all you want if you're a Patriots fan. Like you're just looking at it saying, look, the Bills are better than us, but we got to give them, come out physical and, come out hitting, but then try to match their speed if you can and try to cover them. And, and from an offensive perspective, look, you did it last year in the Hurricane. You ran all over them in the Hurricane, and then you couldn't do it in the other 2 games. And so, of course, running the ball, of course, is good because you want to try to keep the ball away from Josh Allen, but at the same time, you got to score points, right? So you got to be able to score. And so, I'm not a fan of handing it off 40 times a game because you're not going to beat the Bills 14-10. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter how long they have the ball for, right? So to me, yeah, of course, you want to establish the run, but you have to be able to throw it as well. And so it's a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup. It's not going to be easy. But I do think the Patriots are better prepared for the Bills this year with their roster than they were last year. And so, we'll see. I'm hoping we can at least clip them on that Thursday night, but because at least the Patriots will have a long week because they play on Thanksgiving night. So they'll have a full week, whereas the Bills will have a short week. So
the Bills play Thanksgiving as well. We play Thanksgiving morning. We play against the Lions.
Well, then that doesn't help us at all. So, but nevertheless.
Well, let me ask you this real quick before we ask Thomas and Kevin. J.C. Jackson, how did you feel with just the way that whole thing? I hated it.
Because go ahead.
Well, I mean, we hated in Buffalo. We want him in New England because he's Stephon Diggs' son. So that's not. It doesn't work for us that he's no longer there, man. Like I need something happening.
Yeah. Here's the thing for me that really pissed me off the most last year. You have Gilmore, you have J.C. Jackson. Of course, Gilmore was a defensive player of the year in 2019. I don't know if he's ever been kind of back to that level. But the issue that I have with it is that, okay, that's fine. I got no problem with that. Then choose. All right, you trade Gilmore for nothing. Fine. Okay, you're choosing J.C. Jackson. That's fine. And then you let J.C. Jackson walk. So it's like, well, what are we doing here? Like, so you didn't choose. You chose neither of them, right? You got nothing back for like literally nothing back for Stephon Gilmore. And then you're going to get a third round comp back for J.C. Jackson because they didn't really sign anyone. They didn't sign anyone that would offset that. So they'll get a third round comp back for J.C. Jackson, but it was incredibly frustrating. And I do think that their corners are more talented this season from top to bottom. But J.C. Jackson was a lockdown corner. And I know he had trouble with Diggs from time to time, and Diggs is that guy that, like, if you go one-on-one with Diggs, he'll sun you up sometimes because that's who he is, right? But I think, he was the only guy that the Patriots would ever dream of putting one-on-one against Stephon Diggs. They're not putting Jalen Mills one-on-one against Stephon Diggs, right? So, but I do think that from top to bottom, their cornerbacks are better than they were last year. They just don't have that top-end elite talent. Now, the question is, will J.C. Jackson be worth that contract? And I guess we'll find out, right? We'll find out whether he will be or not. I just think I wish they had chosen between Gilmore, and Jackson, and they just let them both go. And that was frustrating for me.
Well, we'll see though, because I'm actually that take. I'm not being funny this time when I say it. I'm curious because everybody that I know who's connected to the Patriots feel discouraged about the moves over the summer. So, and you seem to think that cornerback wise that there has been an improvement overall for the room. So, we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. Thomas, what's your take on the Jets and the Bills, man? How do you think that looks for you guys?
It's going to be interesting. That's one of the teams that I've been kind of looking at. I'm really interested to see how you guys use James Cook. Considering, Emmanuel Sanders left that slot role. You guys brought in Jamison Crowder and Isaiah McKenzie. He's still back. He's, shown himself more this year than he has throughout the rest of his career, I suppose, as a route runner. So that's going to be interesting. I want to see how those guys kind of mesh if you guys choose to put James Cook there in the slot more, because I don't think he's really your prototypical running back. And I think Cook could be like that problem for the Jets in terms of stopping your guys' offense. Obviously, Diggs is Diggs. So we're going to see how that plays out. But I think that Cook could be the person to give the Jets fits a little bit depending on their usage. I don't think you guys are going to use him as your prototypical running back. So if he goes out and plays in the slot or does anything like that, if you guys run 21 personnel, that could be a little bit interesting. In terms of offense, I think we could match up a little bit better than we have in years past. The offense is the one thing on the Jets that I'm actually really excited to see. I want to see Elijah Moore's growth going forward, and paired up with Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis and the Conklin, everybody that's kind of gotten a little bit better. It's going to be interesting to see how we stack up against your guys' defense, because we haven't been the greatest in the division. So it's curious. The Bills are kind of like where my question mark is. I mean, you probably you don't have to worry about much, as you guys are the reigning division champs here. But I was kind of surprised you guys didn't do more to set Josh Allen up offensively, other than bringing in Cook as a weapon for you guys. I think you guys could have probably brought in another receiver to take that slot role. I'm not too sold on Crowder or McKenzie kind of getting it done. So that kind of piques my interest on Cook for you guys. I think he could be good.
Oh, that's fair. I think a lot of things when it comes to that is just from outside of Buffalo. If you're not like, for instance, like there are guys I'm sure on the Jets roster that you're like, no, this guy can be special, and you know him, and I just have no clue who he is. That's Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie, he for sure should have been a bigger part of the offense every week, for sure. What ended up happening was, when you have Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis, you're just you're just so stacked that it's tough to crack that. It's just tough to crack the lineup. And we saw once there was an injury, or a couple injuries, actually, the week that we played the Patriots, we had to start him. Like, we couldn't do anything else. And he came out and he showed exactly who he was. Seasons prior to that, we used to use him as like a gadget player. Same thing. When he got on, he always, like, he led the team in like yards after the catch. He led the league in big plays. He led the team. And he's that type of player. So I agree that I think he's going to be in that role over Crowder. I think the Bills are going to try to force Crowder in there because we picked him up and spent some money on him. But I think if you're asking me, I think Isaiah McKenzie belongs as that starting slot player. Absolutely. Like Cook, I could see him being used in that because obviously he's a receiving running back. I personally think by week 6, though, he's going to be our starting running back. And I know it didn't look like that in college, that he didn't have that type of role. Everything in camp, he looks like a running back. He doesn't look like a receiving back. He's playing the part. I don't know if Dalvin taught him some stuff over the summer. I don't know what's happening, but I think by week 6 we'll have a new starting running back in Buffalo. Kev, let's get your take on this, and then we'll finish up with like real quick with our predictions for the division, and then we'll get on out of here.
Well, first, given that I just drafted Cook in my fantasy league, I want him to start earlier than week 6.
But he could win your league for you. He could second half of the year.
Okay,
he got you.
No, I think that the trick for Miami is stop EJ Manuel, stop Tyrod Taylor, stop every quarterback that ever faces Miami from Buffalo seems to be an MVP candidate. And now you actually do have an MVP candidate. It's stop him. And I don't mean shut him down, don't let him throw the ball. I mean literally stop the guy, because every quarterback seems to run like mad against Miami. And it may not always be statistically, when you go back and look at it, you're like, oh, he had 15 yards of rushing. But it's 15 yards that were key in that moment, and somehow there goes whichever quarterback it is, and now it's Josh Allen, and it's got to be stop Josh Allen. Just stop him from running. Make him throw the ball. Yes, I know that sounds stupid because the guy can obviously throw the ball. But for Miami, it's stop the quarterback from running. Let Xavier Howard and whoever else is playing cornerback, let them do their jobs. Javon Holland is a beast at safety that people are going to very quickly learn about. He's going to have a play in there somewhere that's going to make a difference. But if the Dolphins let Josh Allen run all over the field, it's never going to go well.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Funny thing is, last season, that week, what was it? Week 2, we came to Miami, I believe. You guys shut him down that game. Like Josh Allen himself, like his stats, if you go back and look at the way Josh performed, it wasn't a good game for Josh. For some reason, it's just like right now, and I feel good about it. This is not me being like, this time I'm not joking and bragging, but like for some reason, we just have the Dolphins number at the moment. Like when Josh plays horribly, the team still figures it out, and it's a blowout for the Dolphins. And I don't understand it. The Patriots had the Bills like that for like 15 years. Like it didn't matter what happened. Like we could have had the biggest game from our quarterback and running back, and then Tom Brady still just threw for like 800 yards and 17 touchdowns, and it just didn't matter. So
it felt like for a long time there, and Thomas, this isn't to forget about you, but it felt like the Dolphins were built to beat the Patriots. And every year, at least one of those games was going to go Miami's way, or they were at least going to be a slugfest to the very end. The Patriots were built to beat the Bills and just crush them. The Bills were able to always crush the Dolphins. It was like this weird, the three never could sweep each other. And it just, I don't know why, but
So
yes, it's exactly that. Like you said, you could slow down Josh Allen, and for some reason the Dolphins still find a way to not be able to make it happen.
Yep, and with that, I feel your pain because, like I said, the Patriots used to do it to the Bills like so much. You had something there, Pat? Looks like.
I was gonna say, Kevin mentioned about MVP, MVP candidate, and I'm rooting for Josh Allen to win MVP.
No,
100%. Absolutely, I do. And the reason why, of course, is because the last MVP to win the Super. The last MVP to win the Super Bowl was?
I feel like it hasn't happened. If it
Quick
has,
trivia
then it's just been one. It was probably Tom Brady. If you're saying that,
it was not Tom Brady. No, it was not.
Who was it?
It was Kurt Warner in 1999 for the St. Louis Rams. That was the last MVP. I think they're like 0 and I want to say 11. I think, or 0 and 9 or something like that in the Super Bowl since
the
MVP. So.
You know what?
So I'm rooting for Josh Allen to win MVP so that they don't win the Super Bowl this year.
You know what? Screw that. I'm gonna do it. He's gonna be the guy. He's gonna be the one. He's gonna get the MVP, the Super Bowl MVP, and he's gonna lift the Lombardi. He's gonna do all of it. So
there you go.
So you know what? I'm not gonna go in this scared. I ain't no chump. Yeah, I'm a Bills fan. That's what it's gonna be. So, gentlemen, thank you so much, man. This was a blast. This was just an amazing episode. I think this is gonna be one of my favorite for the year. Last year, it was one of my favorites. Real quick, let's just go around, find out who you all think is going to win a division, then tell us where your content is and where we can find you, and then we'll get on out of here. Start with Pat.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the Patriots come in second. That's all I can say. We'll see what happens. So, but I am over at Pat's Pulpit. We have shows every week, multiple times a week. We are live on Pat's Pulpit, YouTube and Twitch as well. And so we'd love to have you subscribe over there, obviously podcast form also. And on Twitter, I am at @plane_Pats. I'm always talking Patriots, of course, but other NFL and fantasy football and Marvel and Game of Thrones, which is on tonight, and, the Rings of Power on Amazon, and I'm all over the place. So shoot me a follow or tweet along or just give me some crap. If you're a Bills fan, that's fine too. I don't mind.
Give him crap, but follow him for sure. Thomas, what's up, man? Where are you from? And well, first, who's the division, and then let everybody know where they can find your content and what you got coming up.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow suit with Pat. I just hope the Jets don't hit the basement this year, but I don't think we'll be as lucky. You can find me at Gangrene Nation, Jets X Factor, or on Twitter at ThomasCP_NFL.
You have some pretty good articles. Do you have anything that you're working on that's coming out this week or next week or anything? Or
I'm trying, man. I'm gonna be busting up. The last piece I did was on Sauce Gardner and how he reminds me a lot of Antonio Cromartie. Cromartie did not like that, so I've been kind of laying low a little bit. Yeah.
Really? Well,
yeah,
real quick, I mean, do you mind? Can you kind of share kind of how that went across? Like, that's weird to me. I would think it would be a compliment.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought as well. He kind of commented on the post on Twitter and wasn't really happy with the comparison being made. I couldn't really figure out why. He didn't really give no rhyme or reason to it. Kind of said it was his own man. I thought it would have been a compliment to have a career the way Cromartie had a career, and that's nothing to laugh at. But ever since then, I've been just laying low a little bit, kind of building up my buzz for the season.
Yeah, no, makes sense for sure. Go follow my guy and the team over at Gangrene Nation. My man Thomas, thank you so much for kicking it with me tonight. And Kevin, man, let's go ahead and get on out of here. Let everybody know first who's going to take the division. We know what it is, and then let everybody know where we can find your work.
I just want to point out that we still have the Colts having more AFC East championships than the Jets.
Oh, you just had to do that.
No, it's one of my favorite stats. It's just ridiculous.
That's a good stat. That's a great stat.
So I think it's the Bills. I think the Dolphins can probably compete for at least part of the year, but I think it's the Bills winning the AFC East again. And I think that even if the Bills sweep the Dolphins have enough power to at least stay close for a while and then probably fade into that. Like I said, three AFC East teams making the playoffs, but the Bills winning it on the way out or pulling away at the end. And then obviously it's at the Phinsider, PH on Phinsider, and Phinsider.com. We have our podcast right now. We have 2 shows on the podcast network, Phinsider Radio, which is Jake and Josh show. And then we have the Blowhole on there. And then at some point, I swear I say it every year, but I'm going to get back into podcasting and just do my own show. So hopefully that'll come back up this year and I'll be able to do that. And then we're also looking to add in doing Twitter Spaces soon. So that way we can start getting some of that interaction with the fans there. So watch for those. Hopefully those will come up soon.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, follow all 3 of these gentlemen and the teams that they represent. Pat's Pulpit, Gangrene Nation, and the Phinsider are all great teams with great content. And you already know Buffalo Rumblers. We do it. We do what we do over here. Did you have something, Pat? Looked like you wanted to throw something in.
One more thing, if I could plug myself one more time. Any teachers out there or any students out there, perhaps even, I started a educational TikTok. Mr. Lane Math on TikTok. I don't know what the hell I'm doing on there, but I'm trying. So if you're a fellow teacher or if you got a kid in middle school or whatever or high school that's learning math, it's gonna be some math stuff over there and some teaching stuff. So cool. if that tickles your fancy, give me a follow over there on TikTok.
Shout out to all the teachers in the world. I think they should be paid more, and I'm not just saying it because you're on here, Pat. I really do.
Appreciate that.
Teachers touch the lives of our future, whatever, politicians, police officers, whatever. Like, you touch all those lives, you deserve to be paid more. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy JSpenceTheKing, representing that Buffalo Rumblers podcast, Vidcast Network. Y'all know how we do it. Y'all take care of each other, love each other, and live in peace. And as always, stay positive, test negative, go Bills.
Code of conduct.